Namaskar. In this presentation, we would like to discuss few issues related to use of astronomy observations of the Mahabharata. Specifically, there are two serious problems that we come across all the time anytime we are looking at the research work of any Mahabharata researcher trying to determine the chronology or the timing of the Mahabharata war. The first problem is ignorance of scientific methodology. It is a very serious problem and it is widespread. One aspect of it is the evidence and testing and misunderstanding surrounding these two. The second aspect is the sequence of testing, which evidence one should test first before even one can meaningfully test another piece of evidence. And there is a specific sequence depending on what each evidence is contributing towards this timing of the Mahabharata war. The second bigger issue that we see is that of a wrong approach. And a couple of aspects of this. The first one is to recognize that approximately right is a must. And this is a non-negotiable aspect of trying to figure out the timing of Mahabharata war. One cannot simply jump into a specific year and then try to justify why that particular year seems to be the year of Mahabharata war based on some arbitrary or selective evidence. That won't work, that will not work. But that's what 99% of Mahabharata researchers have done. The second aspect of this, related to the first, is to realize that precisely accurate is obviously desired, and by luck we may be able to achieve it. We have no guarantees in life, of course. But the first part is very important, that approximately right is a must and it's not negotiable. Then we will give you one illustration of what constitutes a correct methodology and also a right approach. So combining of these two issues and how they should be addressed, and then we will summarize our presentation. All right, so let's begin with the first part, ignorance of a scientific methodology. And within that, the specific two aspects we would like to discuss is that of evidence and testing. What we mean by that? Suppose we plot this aspect of evidence as a vertical axis, and on one end we have all the relevant evidence from Mahabharata text in this case, which is of course a logical and rational approach to use all the evidence. The other end being a set of arbitrary or set of selective evidence, which is non-scientific, unscientific, illogical, irrational. And then if we use the second axis of testability, and by testability we mean objective testability, with one end as that evidence being testable in the context of theory, the second end being that the evidence is not testable. These two aspects allow us to look at all the different claims for the year of Mahabharata war and split them into these four categories. I have given them names such as preservation of tradition, dharmic assertions, tamasic skepticism, and superficial and manipulative claims. Now look at what is desired here. So let's say if we focus on the evidence. So the first quadrant is good because it does take into account all the relevant evidence. So is second quadrant. But the third and fourth are in the non-acceptable category because they only focus on arbitrary or selective evidence. If we look at the second aspect of testability, what you'll find is that the first quadrant does not focus on testability at all. Its focus is only to preserve all the documents, all the references that it can find related to a specific subject, in this case the Mahabharata. One good example would be that of the critical edition prepared by Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute. Again, they did not go about trying to decide which one is right, which one is wrong, how to test a specific observation, but where they focused is to document all possible variations of it and preserving them for posterity. Dharmic assertions, you will find this is the only quadrant where we get both check marks for evidence and testability, and therefore this is the desired quadrant. And as we go down to tamasic skepticism, again the evidence is not testable. And the last, superficial and manipulative quadrant, it is superficial and it is manipulative because of that one check mark on testability. So an ordinary individual is confused and frankly thinks of any research conducted in this quadrant to be something that is legitimate. Unfortunately, it is not. Now, if we take all these 130 plus claims and split them into these 4 quadrants, approximately they fall like this. Notice majority of the claims, more than 95%, unfortunately fall into this undesired quadrant of superficial and manipulative claims. So that's the first aspect of this scientific methodology. Okay, keep that in mind. We must look at all the relevant evidence, and each of that evidence should be testable, or at least researchers should make an attempt to make it testable in the context of his or her theory. The second aspect is that of the again, ignorance of scientific methodology is the sequence of testing. And what again we mean by this is, imagine we plot these observations, astronomy observations, on the y-axis as their relevance for determining the chronology of Mahabharata war and going from high to low, or low to high. And on the x-axis, if we plot from a testability point of view, the testability or falsifiability or simplicity or prior improbability of that observation, again going from low to high, then you will realize that every observation scores highest among the all available astronomy observations on both counts for its relevance, but also for its testability or falsifiability or simplicity or prior improbability. So that observation naturally should be tested first. We can look at other observations and be able to plot it in this fashion. So Bhishma Nirvana or set of observations for Bhishma Nirvana comes next, then planetary positions, then positions and phases of the moon, descriptions of the season, eclipses, comet near Pusha, and so on. So this is the second aspect of scientific methodology, which is to say understanding the relevance and understanding the testability, falsifiability. And what we mean here is that the degree of testability, degree of falsifiability, and degree of simplicity. All right, let's look at quickly the second approach. Approximately right is a must. This is non-negotiable, and this is not understood by a majority of the researchers. Okay, what could be an easy way to explain this? Imagine we have this cricket ball and we want to find out if it meets the criteria set by, say, Indian Cricket Board. Now, Indian Cricket Board has given us the criteria. For example, it says the diameter of a cricket ball that is used in mains matches it has to be between these two numbers, 71.27 millimeters or less than 72.8636 millimeters. There are many ways we can measure this. For example, if someone decides to use this instrument called vernier caliper, what it has 2 scales. One is the main scale, and that allows you to measure something approximately. So what we have to do is take this cricket ball and adjust here between these prongs in such a way that it fits snugly. In that case, we can take the reading here on this main scale. So that's our approximate reading. And then we have a secondary scale. It's called the finer scale or vernier scale. And it's measured by deciding which of these lines on the secondary scale perfectly aligns with any of these bars. and depending on that you have to perform some calculations, and it will tell you what the measurement of this ball is, and then we can compare this against these standards. The point I would like to make is this: if we make a mistake how we place this ball between these prongs, and if we don't do it properly, which is to say if we don't measure the diameter of this ball approximately right, it doesn't matter how precise we are in taking this secondary measurement. So if one cannot achieve approximately right, wrong answer is assured. It doesn't matter what you do after that, okay? Precisely or approximately, we'll get wrong answer. All right, the second approach, the second aspect, of this wrong approach is that we have to be approximately right, and that's fine, but can we achieve the measurement that is precisely accurate is really not up to us. I mean, we can try, it is obviously desired, but only by luck, especially when we are looking at Mahabharata text or ancient text. Whether we can reach that level of precisely accurate, it depends on luck, depends on the technology that we have access to, and we will never know if we have reached the final destination. All right, what I want to do is give you an example of this. Mahabharata text has more than 215 observations, and I have classified them into two categories. The first one is effects due to precession of equinoxes, and these observations in blue, they are such that their implication doesn't change easily. Okay, we have to go thousands of years before the implication of these observation changes. I like to call them as approximately right. These observations allow us to get into the right plausible region of the Mahabharata war. Okay. There is a second set of observations. I call it effect due to the near Earth phenomenon, and they allow us to fine-tune the specific year once we are into the ballpark. Okay. All right, I call this precisely accurate. Hopefully these observations allow us to get to our final destination. So quickly we will go through this example that combines the correct scientific methodology and also the correct approach. Let's begin with this timeline. We begin with where we are today, that's 2017, and we have to go backwards to find out the plausible time period for the Mahabharata war. Heavy observation, and I'm not going to go through the details of how this observation was tested and how the inferences were drawn. I have given multiple lectures. They are available on YouTube. I have written multiple blogs. They are available at my blog site, and also the description is there in my book. And what this heavy observation asserted with mathematical certainty is this: that the Mahabharata war did not happen any day later than 4508 BCE or any time before 11,091 BCE. So the probable plausible time for the year of Mahabharata war is between these two dates. So let's block the other times where we can say with mathematical certainty that definitely Mahabharata war did not happen anytime after 4500 BCE or anytime before 11091 BCE. Let's look at the second set of observations. This is from Bishmanirvan, more than 23 observations, and what they allowed us to again state with mathematical certainty is this: that the Mahabharata war could not have happened even a day later than 3700 BCE or any time before 7000 BCE. So now we have some overlapping time periods here. We can only focus on the overlap area, which is this period of about 2500 years, from 4500 BC to 7000 BCE. Now the question is, how do we go down further to the specific year and claim it as a year of Mahabharata war? Well, again, use this analogy of first getting approximately right, and that's what we did here. And now let's look at the additional evidence to see if we are lucky and if it allows us to go down to a specific year. We'll begin with the planetary positions observations. There are 23 plus, and out of that I'm going to pull 6, 3 for Saturn and 3 for Jupiter. That's what we have in the Mahabharata text. Now, why Saturn and Jupiter? I specifically selected Saturn and Jupiter because they are the slowest and slower visible planets of our solar system. Saturn takes around 30 years to complete one orbit. Jupiter takes about 12 years. And the reason I selected Saturn and Jupiter because they move slowly and their descriptions are such that whatever combination of positions that is desired to explain all of them, Mahabharata researchers cannot play much interpretation game with these descriptions, okay? Because you can't move Saturn or Jupiter from one position to another very fast within a short period of time because of their slow motion. So whatever the desired combination of these two planets for that specific year of Mahabharata war, it would occur about every 60 years. Why is that? Because 12 times 5 is 60, 30 times 2 is 60. So that's kind of the common factor there. And we can draw these particular years, find out these instances within these 2500 years that would match whatever that desired combination is. And that would amount to about what, 40 instances, 2500 divided by 60. All right, so we narrowed it down to say approximately 40 instances, 40 years, let's say, out of this entire time span. How do we go further? Well, we use the exactly same approach. Let's look at another set of observations. In this case, descriptions of Mars from the Mahabharata text. And there are 6 specific descriptions of Mars. Very interesting observations. And it so happened, fortunately, it allowed us to narrow this down to one specific year, and that year is 5561 BCE. So, as an initial claim, this is what I claimed as the year of Mahabharata war. Now, do we stop here? Of course not, because there are many additional observations. In fact, more than 180 plus astronomy observations, and each observation in principle, when tested, can contradict, can falsify this 5561 BCE as the year of Mahabharata war. Well, that's exactly what I did. I tested all these 180 plus observations, and they do corroborate and do validate 5561 BCE as the year of Mahabharata war. So quickly, in summary, first, always look at all the evidence and make sure that you generate your theory in such a fashion that all of it is testable. Then aim for approximately right first. So what did we find in this case by doing this? Every observation falsifies any claim for the year of Mahabharata war that falls after 45 BCE. Set of Bhishma Nirvana observation does something similar. It falsifies any claim that falls after 3700 BCE. When we combine this together, it gives us a plausible interval for the year of Mahabharata war with mathematical certainty, sometime from 7000 BCE until 4508 BCE. Never before, never after. And what happens? If you look at those existing 130 claims, you'll find that all of them, well, 98+% of them, majority of them, are falsified instantaneously by each of these two observations, and obviously two observations together. No ifs, no buts. And then the second aspect is to remember is to then strive for precision and accuracy. What I mean by that is this. I am claiming 5561 BC as the year of Mahabharata war, but if somebody thinks that they have another year within this time interval of 2500 years, from 7000 BC to 4508 BCE, well, all power to them. I would encourage them to come up with alternate claim, and then we can discuss which of the two claims is a better claim. I request and encourage all Mahabharata researchers to come together and critique each other's claims in the spirit of and with the logic of scientific discovery. And I firmly believe there lies our progress and there lies our treasure. Those of you who may be interested in knowing how specifically I arrived at 5561 BCE, I would encourage you to read my book, When Did the Mahabharata War Happen, published in 2011. I also used the same approach, identical approach, in determining the timing of Ramayana. I wrote the book, The Historic Ram, in 2014. Both books are available in paperback, also in Kindle on Amazon. And I have also written many blogs there at my blog site. And there are a good number of videos, and that number is going up on YouTube. So I'll encourage you to read them as well. And with that, I would like to take any questions or respond to any objections.